Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and today is scrap 5. So we need to use sequins, a 5x7 element, stars, a sketch, and we need to journal on a tag. This is the sketch I decided to go with today. I really liked the way that this kind of decorative piece framed the page, and I really thought it would be a good idea to use this wreath as that element. So I went ahead and fussy cut that beforehand. It was just a big wreath in the center of one of the 12 by 12 pages, so I went ahead and fussy cut it so I could use it that way on the sketch. And now I'm just going through all the papers. This is Simple Stories Country Christmas that Nicole sent me. She pretty much sent me the whole collection, so I was really excited to play with it. And I really think the sketch would be perfect for it. So I just pulled out a couple of the papers I wanted to use. I knew I wanted this wreath element, and I thought it looked really good since the wreath is more green, layering it up on a red background. And then you just saw I also pulled in a green pattern paper I can help with layering. So I just decided to get the wreath element down first, and then same as the sketch, there's a pattern paper running down the right side of the page. So I'm just trimming a couple pieces from this green polka dot for that element, and then I trimmed another chunk off because I know I want to use it to layer around the photos. So I'm just trying to follow the sketch at this point. I kind of pulled out some sequins and some other things from the Scrap 5 recipe that I want to try to incorporate on this page, but as I get started here, I really just want to focus on the sketch to get the design portion down. I know things like stars and sequins I can use as a finishing touch, so I'm not too worried about getting those on there yet. I definitely want to incorporate that 5x7 element, and I know I'm going to be journaling on a tag at some point, so I'm just trying to keep that in mind. This is Christmas of last year, and I just have a couple of 4x4s of our group shots. So me and Marcus in the top there, and then me, my mom, Bennett, and Becca in the bottom. So I'm just going to layer them up, same as how they were in the sketch. I'm going to use this green polka dot that's already on the right side of the page to be that first layer, and then the second layer that's in the sketch, I'm going to incorporate one of the 5x7 pieces of paper that come in this collection that's kind of underneath all my ephemera there on the left. So that's kind of how I decided to approach this one. I'm just trying to trim everything that overhangs the page as we go and follow the sketch as closely as possible to begin with. But I think this is already turning out so sweet. I love going from Felicity Jane to a collection like this because they have such different styles. It really pushes me to do something different, and I'm just inspired by a collection like this in such a different way than I'm inspired by Felicity Jane. And so it's fun to kind of bounce back and forth to kind of use things in different ways. So the sketch also really helped, obviously, because I'm just following that design, which I already really liked. So I'm kind of set up for success by using a sketch that I already love. Here's that piece of 5x7 paper that I'm incorporating. I don't know if I failed on this or not. I kind of thought about it afterwards that I'm not sure if the 5x7 element on the recipe was supposed to be a 5x7 element by the end of the page, or I'm just using a 5x7 element on the page somehow, because I trimmed down this 4x7 piece of paper into a smaller layer to follow my sketch, so it's not a 5x7 element anymore, and I don't know if that was a no-no or not, but I'm just trying to follow my sketch as close as possible, so that's what I decided to do. And obviously it wasn't long enough to stretch past both of these 4x4s, so there's a gap there I'm going to have to cover with my tag or ephemera at some point. But I'm almost done with the layers from the sketch here. There's a little banner element coming out from the top and bottom of these photos that I'm just using a scrap piece of red pattern paper for. And then my sketch will pretty much be accomplished other than the areas of embellishment, but I really think this is a sweet base to work from. I think it's just so exciting to look at, and I've barely even done anything yet, which is fun. So I'm going to get these banners down. There are two rolls of washi that Nicole also sent with this collection that coordinate. So one of them is a nice Christmassy plaid. I thought that might be a nice layer to add in. The sketch kind of had stitching down this little scrap of green on the right side of the page, but I wasn't really wanting to stitch on this layout, so instead, to kind of compensate for that texture, I decided to tear some washi and run it down the side, which you already saw. there's these really cool frames that also come with this collection, but I didn't really have photos in the proportion to use them as frames like they were intended, but I loved the style of the frames, and so I'm just trimming this one up to get those two edges of the frame to kind of come out of the two areas where there's embellishment noted in the sketch, and I thought that would be a really fun base to build from for my embellishments. So I think that looks really cool. I'm going to go ahead and get these frames glued down in those two spots, and then I just know that's where I want to build my ephemera out from, and I think that looks awesome. I love using frames like this, so it was kind of cool to incorporate it that way. And then there's a ton of like cut aparts that come in this collection, so I'm going through all of them to try to see if there's anything I want to fussy cut to use as embellishment. There's several of things I think would look really cute if I fussy cut them to use as embellishment on all of these little cards, but I also got the die cut pack for this collection, so once I went through the die cuts I kind of realized I had everything I needed for now, at least in my ephemera, so I didn't really have to fussy cut too many things. There's a little poinsettia on one of the small cut apart cards that I do end up fussy cutting, but everything else I think was already an ephemera bit, so that was nice. Yeah, that little poinsettia on that little 2x2 square I'll fussy cut, and I'll use that in one of my clusters. But now I'm just going through all the ephemera bits. I love the deer that come in this collection, are so cute, and I love how so many of these die cuts look super layery even though it's just one piece. Like they just look like they're already layered bits of ephemera, which is really cute. So I'm just trying to play around with how or what I want to use to build out here. I don't want things to distract from the wreath. I was really excited by a lot of the like Christmas tree type ephemera. I really wanted to layer up that kind of stuff, but I thought it detracted from my big wreath that's in the background. So I kind of went down a different path. This is where I'm fussy cutting that poinsettia. I really love that because it's going to bring more of the red from the background into one of these clusters, which is nice. I definitely think it would be cool to get the two deer on this page, so I'm going to think about that. It just takes me a minute to mix and match what I want in my little layers, so I'm going to fussy cut this first though, and then I'll deal with it. I also really like all these little circular elements. Sometimes it's hard for me to use ephemera like that, but that comes in handy by the end of the page when I just need kind of a finishing touch. So I'll get those circular elements, a lot of them anyways, on this page once we get going. But there's my two deer that I want in each of my clusters, and now I'm just trying to figure out which ephemera piece I want to layer with which deer. So I really like this one that says Christmas Wishes on the bottom. It also has a star on the die cut, which I thought was nice because stars were something from the recipe we were already supposed to incorporate. So I liked that. But before I started gluing down my ephemera cluster, I wanted to get my tag down. I thought a tag would look really nice coming out from behind this frame. And I just knew I could do a little bit of journaling on it for that part of the recipe too. So I wanted to make sure I got that down, pulling out a whole reinforcement from Karina and getting that glued on there. And I'm just going to thread it with some twine. I thought about doing black and white twine or golden white twine, but because this is more of a rustic collection and all of my star ephemera bits are wood veneer, I thought it'd be nice to pull in that kind of raw twine to go with the theme, and it will also make my raw wood veneer I end up pulling in later on make more sense. So that's why I kind of chose to go with that instead of one of my other twines. But I'm just going to shove that tag up under there. I really don't have the journal on this page, so I will just write Christmas 2020 on that tag to fulfill the requirement, but they're pretty self-explanatory photos. They're going in with all my Christmas 2020 stuff, and it's a Christmas theme layout, so I think you kind of understand what the photos are about, but I definitely will journal on that tag before the end. But I think that looks nice there, and now I can go ahead and build up with my ephemera. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want all of this stuff layered. It does take me a minute just because the frame does add a little bit of dimension, and because these die cuts are going over the edge of the frame, I will kind of use some skinny foam dots so it all lays flat. So you can see me pulling that in just to lay that across. So My poinsettia layer will lay flat, and then my Christmas wishes will be flush with the frame, and then my little deer that I'm going to layer on top is going to have an additional layer of dimension with those foam dots, just so you have that different depths. And then with the cluster in the upper right, I definitely wanted this other deer, so I went ahead and incorporated this Happy Holidays thing, little die cut. And now I'm going in with these circular bits to kind of finish out those areas of embellishment. So I think that looks sweet. I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff glued down. And then with the rest of my recipe, I have my 5x7 element, even though I ended up trimming it into not a 5x7. I'm using my sketch, and I got my tag that I'll journal on, but I need to think about my sequins and my stars. And like I said, I have some wood veneer stars laying out to the side of me. You can't see them in frame, but I thought with these circular elements from the die cuts, it could kind of create a scattered effect if I wanted to use the sequins and the stars almost like confetti. I kind of wanted to do more than I ended up doing, but I wimped out a little bit and wanted to edit to make it more simplistic, just because sometimes when I try to do that confetti look, it just looks busy and clustered. So I just kind of tried to pull back a little bit, but I wanted to make sure I fulfilled that recipe item, so you'll see in a little bit. I wasn't quite sure what sequin I would go with, but I ended up going with these cute little red heart sequins. Just to pull some more red in, because I already knew I had the kind of raw star wood veneer, and I thought those would look kind of cool together because they're so different. So I'm going in with those red little heart sequins now, and then I'll go in my little star wood veneer in a couple places too. It's a little fiddly because they're so tiny, so it takes me a minute to kind of position them and get them glued down, but I just kind of wanted one of these little special little cute things in each kind of area of interest. So you can see me kind of spreading them around the page. But I think those look nice with the kind of raw, rougher, rustic style of this collection. I just love the raw twine and this raw wood veneer. I think it looks really cool. So it just takes me a minute to get all these little bits glued down. But there's one heart, there's two hearts, and then I have one up there on the button that's by that other deer. And then I like where my wood veneer are placed as well. It creates a little subtle visual triangle, which is nice. So I'm going to get those glued down too. But this is pretty much it. I'm going to journal Christmas 2020 on my tag. But that's pretty much my page. I do go in with some gold Heidi Swapp color shine right before the end, just to add a little bit of gold sparkle, because it is Christmas. I think gold looks really good with the red and green when it's a Christmas theme. So that kind of helps bring a little bit more shine and sparkle too, because the sequins were so shiny and there wasn't anything else shiny on the page. So I liked the addition of the gold Heidi Swapp color shine. I forgot, I did go in with a little bit more washi down here just to go off of the washi I added to the right side of the page. So I think that adds another textured layer, which is cool. But here I think is my Heidi Swapp color shine, and think the close-ups will be up here in a minute. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check out everyone else playing with Scrap 5. If you want to use this recipe, make sure you tag us on Instagram so we can see. But it's sequins, a 5x7 element, stars, a sketch, and journaling on a tag. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.